In the 2 games that Raptors point guard Fred VanVleet has missed through injury, the team has won by 30 points and 43 points respectively, which is making Raptors fans beg the question, is this team better without Fred VanVleet? And is it even better when Scotti Barnes is running the offense as the actual point guard? Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here back with Amateur Sports, your source for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. On this channel, I give you 3 or 4 watch parties a week for every single Raptors game, plus 3 or 4 videos a week to complement that on this channel. So if you like what you see from today's video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Help us on the road to 13,000 subs, and if you find yourself enjoying along the way, the best thing you can do to support Amateur Sports is drop a like. Take only a second for you to do, but it does help me a lot with the YouTube algorithm. But our video in question today, we are discussing the Raptors and the huge decision that they need to make with their starting lineup, because in the last 2 games, the Raptors have looked really good. And the easiest way to figure out that the Raptors have been looking really good is that they beat the Atlanta Hawks, fellow Eastern Conference playoff hopeful, by 30 points and just dismantled them in that game. And then they followed that up against the San Antonio Spurs, maybe not the best team on paper, and yes, maybe missing Keldon Johnson, but it's not every day you beat a team by 43 points, especially a team that has a winning record, because the Spurs entered that game sitting at 5-2. They are a feisty team. We saw that early, but when the Raptors really turned it on, oh my goodness. The San Antonio Spurs had absolutely no answers, and we ran them out of the gym. Now, we talked about Pascal Siakam on Tuesday, so I don't think there's any point of really revisiting him again today. He was once again operating at an MVP level with his 5th career triple-double. 22 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds. Just another sensational performance from Spicy P. But the focus of today's video is going to be about the reigning Rookie of the Year, Scottie Barnes, who maybe hasn't had the most exciting start to the season. He's been fine, but we were expecting a lot better than fine so far this season, but he's looked really good in the last 2 games, and he's looked really good after Nick Nurse said before that Atlanta game that Fred VanVleet was not going to be playing, and the point guard for the Raptors was going to be Scottie Barnes. In a lot of games last season, there were certain situations where maybe Malachi Flynn got the start or Pascal Siakam was playing as the point guard for this team. And though Siakam did a good job in that role, Scottie Barnes, who played as a point guard in his college season with Florida State, he's had experience in that role, and some would suggest that maybe that's his better spot when he's getting more dominant on the ball. So in the last couple of games, Scottie Barnes has been running the offense for this team, and yeah, those performances that the Raptors have had with those humongous wins have been directly correlated with Scottie Barnes playing some excellent basketball in the position. Now, maybe there's some bonehead turnovers here and there, but for a young player, you can definitely forgive that. But statistically speaking, they were great. In the game against Atlanta, he dropped 21 points with 8 assists and 7 rebounds. And yesterday against the San Antonio Spurs, he had 15 points with 5 assists and 4 rebounds to go along with it. But it's not just these statistics that are going to showcase to us how well Scottie Barnes was playing in these games. Just by merely watching this Raptors team, and I mean, you saw the scoreboards, but just by merely watching this Raptors team operate, their offense looks so much more fluid and so much better, especially in the full court. In the full court offense, we looked exceptional against both the Atlanta Hawks and the San Antonio Spurs. We pushed the pace, got active in transition off of a missed shot by Atlanta or San Antonio, or when we get a steal, and OG had 11 steals in the last 2 games, so a lot of turnovers being forced, especially yesterday. We turned that defense into offense very quickly, and the other teams just simply could not compete with this team. So Scottie Barnes as the point guard works, and it's only a 2-game sample size, but I'm convinced here that it works and is going to help this team, which begs the question now regarding the status of last year's all-star point guard, Fred VanVleet. Are the Raptors a better team without Fred VanVleet, because it allows Scottie Barnes to play as the point guard? And for Fred VanVleet, this maybe is a little bit of a difficult discussion, because Scottie Barnes initiating the offense does look really good, and maybe Fred VanVleet, at least to me, and I've been saying this for years now, Fred VanVleet seems to me like a shooting guard that's just trapped in a point guard's body. The way he plays, the way he wants to operate is very reminiscent of a shooting guard. He does not really have the size to do that, so he's always been that shooting guard style of player and has had to learn these point guard playmaking tendencies along the way. But one thing especially in particular that Fred VanVleet is good at offensively, because he is very good defensively as well, One thing that he's always had offensively was the three-point game. That's really what has allowed him to ascend to such a high status in the NBA, coupled with that defense. Fred VanVleet is, make no mistake, one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. He is one of the very best shooters in the league from three, despite being one of the least open players in the NBA. Like last season, his openness rating was an F, and his shot-making rating from three was A+. Like, no matter what you throw at him, he's going to continue to knock down his three-pointers. And the catch-and-shoot threat of Fred VanVleet is enormous. Teams know he's an excellent shooter, and his gravity on the court showcases that. You cannot leave him open, because if you do, he is going to punish you. Now, problematic is the last time we watched Fred VanVleet play, he probably had the worst game of his Raptors career, going 0 for 11. So, what I'm saying here is, don't count that game too much. It's just one game, as I'll say again. And remember, 2 weeks ago, there were Raptors fans calling for OG Anunoby to be traded after one bad game against the Miami Heat. Well, nobody's saying that after two very impressive games offensively, coupled with 6 steals against Atlanta, 5 steals against San Antonio, and OG talking about he wants to be in the DPOY conversation. So as far as, is this team better without Fred VanVleet? No. Very simply, no. Is this team better with Scottie Barnes at point guard? The answer to that question, I think, is yes, but it does not mean that the answer to the other one is also yes. The Raptors can play with Scottie Barnes as the point guard. It's very much a positionless game for the Raptors, and Fred VanVleet playing more off ball. I spoke about in the summer how this was probably a good practice for the Raptors going forward. Fred VanVleet as an off-ball mover to get open for those three-point opportunities can be very lethal to this Raptors offense, not just because Fred can knock down those shots, but because of the floor spacing it can provide to the likes of, potential MVP candidate, it seems, in Pascal Siakam, but as well as Scottie Barnes. It's very clear from these two games that the Raptors are operating at their best when Scottie Barnes is pushing the pace and initiating the offense. And the reason I think that works better for this Raptors team, it just adds in another real element of this controlled chaos that they like to have and push offensively. And for Scottie Barnes, when he has the ball in his hands, well, right now, I think a key reason why he's looked as good as he has, that he's knocking down his three-pointers off the dribble, step back, wide open. The three ball is falling for Scottie Barnes this season, and he is shooting extremely efficiently from three and extremely efficiently from the inside. Yesterday, what I really liked is that he wasn't just taking all these three-pointers, he was taking them, but also he was getting down on the inside, getting down and dirty at the rim, getting his points there in those positions as well. That is where Scottie Barnes is at his best, and he can do that where Fred VanVleet can't really do that as much as Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes right now with the three-point game has that, but also has the range of passing, can just laser a pass cross-court to an open man to shoot a corner three as we saw yesterday, but can also mix it up, get to the rim. There are more ways that Scottie Barnes can hurt you offensively than Fred VanVleet can hurt you offensively. So I think the guessing game that you play when you have to match up with Scottie Barnes, who is carrying the ball forward for the Raptors, just adds another element of uncertainty for the defense, and that is just enough to provide more floor spacing opportunities and better opportunities for the likes of the other starters, OG, Gary Trent, Pascal Siakam. And with that as well, when Fred VanVleet returns, he can do so off ball and add to that offensive talent that this team possesses. I think that the Raptors certainly look their best when they are working with this 6'9" vision here that Masai Ujiri wants to create. But I think Fred VanVleet, despite not being as tall as the other guys, is also a big part of what this Raptors team can do to be successful over the course of the season. We're 5-3 right now. We need to forget about that one really bad game that Fred VanVleet has had, because he is putting on a pretty good season. And fun fact about Fred VanVleet here, and a lot of people who have been watching the Raptors this season are upset that he's taking shots away from Scottie Barnes, and look at Scottie Barnes with Fred VanVleet out. Fred VanVleet has seen the single highest usage percentage drop from this season compared to last season. His usage is down over 7%, which is by far the most and biggest drop-off in the NBA this season. So Fred VanVleet has been fully content to take a step back to allow other players to take a step forward and take on more of the workload, and that specifically starts with Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes initiating the offense, running the offense, seems to be where the Raptors are at their best. Now, he doesn't need to do it every possession, certainly. Guys like, Siakam and especially Fred VanVleet can still take some of those reps, but from a playmaking and ball handling standpoint, the starting five, the closing five on the court, I really like what I see from Scottie Barnes initiating the offense. That does not mean this team is better without Fred VanVleet. He's an excellent player, as showcased by that All-Star appearance. He's stolen a Finals MVP vote off of Kawhi Leonard, and everywhere Fred has gone, he has been a winner. In college, in the D-League, in the NBA with that championship. Fred VanVleet is an excellent player we are lucky to have. So is Scottie Barnes. There are certain things Nick Nurse can do to tinker this offense to get the absolute most out of all the players. Putting Scottie Barnes at point guard and putting Fred VanVleet more off ball, really is positionless though, is the best thing for this team going forward. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like. It does go a long way to supporting the channel, and make sure you are subscribed to MHR Sports for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. Helping me on the road to 13,000 subscribers. Consider becoming a member for the channel, and we'll see you next time for another watch party for the Raptors game tomorrow or the next video coming at you Saturday.